Now we're finishing the sewing allowance of the side seam of the front skirt. Now we will finish the other side of the side seam. We're shifting the fabric so that the bigger part is out of the sewing machine. As you can see, the sewer is not cutting the threads while sewing the edge of the side seam of the back skirt. Now we're finishing the side seam of the back skirt. Now we will be closing the dart lines of the skirt using the same procedure. As you can see, this is the front skirt. Now we are closing the other dart lines. Okay, we've finished closing the dart lines for the front skirt. We now go to the back skirt. Now we are closing the dart lines of the back skirt. If you notice, we're using a darker thread so that the stitches will be visible to you. Again, we will manually lock stitch the end of the dart. Now we're closing the other dart lines of the back skirt. And we are manually locking the end of the dart. Now we will be connecting the side seams of the skirt together. Make sure that you really have the center of the back skirt, or make sure that you are really connecting the side seams of the front and back skirts together. You will know this if the zipper allowances are meeting together at the center of the back skirt. We pin the two ends of the side seam together first, and then we will pin the area of the lower hip together. We pin the ends first so that we are sure that they're evenly aligned. But just in case there's a little problem, like the other side is longer, just choose to leave the excess length on the hemline, as this is easier to refold when we actually fold the hemline length. The reason we pin the two ends together is that this way we are not stretching one part of the fabric unconsciously, so that we can get more aligned sewing lines. Again, if you notice, the bigger part of the fabric is outside of the sewing machine. While sewing, you make sure that the under part of the fabric is flat also. And while sewing, don't just rely on the pins. Make sure that both your hands are guiding the running of the stitches so that your fabric is more flat or the sewing is even. Now we will be pinning the side seams of the other side of our skirt. Again, we pin first the two ends of the side seam. Now we will be pinning the lower hip level together. But just in case we have failed to mark the lower hip level, all we have to do is from the waistline, get the lower hip level and mark it. Or align the other side of the lower hip with the other side that has not been marked and pin this together. As you can see, now we are pinning the inside part of the side seam with the pin outside. Be conscious where the head of the pin is facing. It should be where you can easily remove it, which is the right side of the garment. Or if you are left-handed, you will have to pin the two pieces of the garment on the left side. Again, the edge of the garment should be lock stitch. We will not show how the other side of the side seams are sewn together to save time. After we have connected the side seams, we can start finishing the waistline sewing allowance. First, we start with the back skirt. We pin the fold of the dart facing the zipper allowance or the center back. And we also pin the fold of the front dart facing the center front. We make sure that the pin is not pulling the dart or this will strain the garment, and we will have, when fitted, you will notice a pull and you will have to resew or redo this area again. Okay, as you can see, the fold of the back dart is facing the center back or the zipper allowance. Now we deal with the sewing allowance of the side seam. Again, you lay this flat on the main garment pieces, and then when you pin this on the area of the waistline, there's no pull wherein you will be straining the garment. It should really lay flat on the main garment. Okay, here's the other side seam area. Okay, now we will be finishing the sewing allowance of the waistline by folding it 1/4 of an inch or 0.6 of a centimeter. Just make sure, again we have lock stitch the edge. Make sure that when you fold on the dart area, there is no pull that will strain the main garment. The same holds true when we are finishing the area where the side seam allowances are. There should be no strain or pull on the main garment. We finish the waistline area after the side seams have been connected so that the finishing is even. Again, we will lock stitch the end. Okay, now we go to the bodice. Okay, now we can connect the waistline. Here you can see that the snip to indicate the center of the fabric is still around. For the front skirt, after cutting the excess sewing allowance. So what we will do is fold the fabric this way, aligning the two waist darts. Then we will fold to get the center front, and we will mark this with our tailor's chalk. First, we will pin the sewing lines of the waistline starting on the side seam sides of the front bodice and the skirt. We also pin side seam sides on the other side of the front bodice. Now we will be pinning the sewing line of the center back. And now we are pinning the inner part of the sewing line of the waistline. As you can see, we are joining the sewing lines of the front bodice and the skirt by pinning them together. For the front skirt and the front bodice, we will start with the center front. We pin first the center front of the waistline. Now we are pinning the sewing lines of the waistline of the inner part of the garment. Here we're pinning the inner side of the garment. Now here we have to pin first the center back of the skirt and the back bodice. And then we pin the sewing lines of the waistline of the back skirt and the back bodice. Now we can sew this together. First, we lock stitch the waistline. The sewer is making sure that the underside of the garment part is flat on the sewing machine. We have completely connected the waistline of the bodice and the skirt.